I see
Good morning,
some others, and they used to
everyone.
do
Good morning
the
to
doors and
the
then.
people in the
do one
gallery
peak.
today.
Yeah.
Mid-Murray Council would like to acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional custodians of the land, the Ngadjuri, Maywong, Ongaraku, Narkat, Ngarrindjeri and Paramount peoples of the Mid-Murray lands and waters. It is upon their ancestral lands and waters that the Mid-Murray Council meets and operates, and council pays respect to elders past and present and their spiritual beliefs that are of continuing importance to those First Nations peoples of today. Council further acknowledges the contributions and important role that First Nations peoples continue to play within the community, and we extend that respect to any peoples in attendance here today. I'll just read out some emergency procedures because we have people in the gallery. Should there be a fire or other emergency, the alarm will sound and you will be asked to follow the directions of council staff. Council meetings are live streamed through the Mid-Murray Council website. Attendance and participation in council meetings does not provide any councillors, council employees or member of the public protection from defamation in relation to behaviour or statements made. Individual opinions or statements made during council meetings are not the opinions or statements of council. A copy of today's agenda is available on council's website. Members are reminded if they intend to move, speak, second or ask a question during the meeting that they clearly indicate their intention to speak by using the microphone system. It is important that members use their microphones appropriately so that people at home can hear clearly. Members are reminded that use of mobile phones during the meeting is not permitted, and I ask you to turn your phones off or on to silent. We welcome the visitors in the gallery and we ask them to observe the meeting in respectful silence as the chamber deliberates on matters that relate to the Mid-Murray Council. Council meetings are formal meetings that are subject to specific meeting procedures. This means that they are designated sections of the meeting, e.g. deputations, where members of the public can directly interact in the meeting, with the remainder of the meeting only providing the public with an opportunity to listen to the meeting's procedure in an observer role. Attendance, we have Councillor Davis on leave. Everybody else is here. Confirmation of minutes. Can somebody move that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 15th of July 2025 be taken as read and confirmed? Thank you, Councillor Schultz and Councillor McGregor. Seconding that. Does anyone wish to talk on that? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Yes, that is carried. Declaration of interest. We'll just go around the room.
Yep. 20.1 community grant. I'll leave the room.
Yes, I have a material interest for 12.2 and 12.3, and I will be leaving the room for them.
Oh, hang on, sorry. We're on. I also have two material conflicts of interest, item 11.10 and 20.3 as well.
Thank you.
I've got a correction. I just remembered in 20.1 the community grants will be having.
Thank you. Okay, business agenda is nil, deputations and nil, petitions are nil. We will start on 9.1, the monthly financial report, July 2025. The recommendation is that the report be received. Do we have a mover? Councillor Myers, thank you. Councillor Toczek McBeach. Councillor Myers, do you wish to speak on that?
No.
No. Councillor Toczek.
Yes.
Yeah.
As always, I'm interested in the sale of the properties that are about to negotiate on their back rates. So I just wondered whether we had an update on that and also an update on when the next tranche might begin.
Yeah, just through the chair. The lawyers have now supplied the council with modified conditions of because of we act as vendors, and there's a number of issues such as unclaimed goods, etc., which will complicate sale. But it's just been the working of those clauses. Yesterday I received 3 out of the 6 registered interests of how many amounts are outstanding, and to keep in mind that we've got to work within other bodies and basically wait for them to reply on us. I expect that the vendor statements will be able to be signed within the next 2 weeks, and that means that they will be open to the knowledge of the public, free advertised. Then we've got a process of approximately 4 weeks of advertising and then the auction. Then once that auction has occurred, then we will roll into the next round of Section 184s.
Any further questions? If anyone wishes to speak on that item? On that question?
Thank you. Just the sustainability table, this comes up each month, and it's been a long time since we've added anything to that. So am I right that it's been months really since this was added to or changed? And whether we go to the green, the green lettering, if we're going to add stuff, and if there's anything in the pipeline that we might be able to add. Thank you.
Yeah, just through the chair. Updates will be made as soon as the more decisions are taken upon by the council for the savings, and we can move to the green method of updates.
That's it. That's the last of you talking.
Questions applied.
It's really not quite for several meetings anyway.
Anybody else have any questions in relation to that item or wish to speak? If not, we'll put that motion out. All those in favour? And again, so is carried. Thank you. 9.2, the recommendation is that the 2024-25 annual financial statements and certification report on the council agenda of 19th August 2025 be received, and that council authorise the mayor and CEO to certify the annual financial statements in their final form when completed. We're going to move for that. Councillor McGregor, Councillor Barber is seconding that. You wish to speak on that? No. Do you want to speak? No. Anybody else wish to speak or have any questions on that item? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. 10.1, the recommendation is that the infrastructure and field services summary report on the council agenda of August 2025 be received. We have to move back to Councillor Hammond, Councillor Ward, seconding. Do you wish to speak on that?
Just want to say, as always, that it's a great report of everything that's getting done around our area, and it looks like we're moving forward on a lot of great projects that are being finally done from flood recovery and things like that. So well done, team.
Nothing from me. Anybody else wish to speak? I have a question from Councillor Schultz and Councillor Barber.
On page 34, it says about the funding application, the 2 standpipes automations. Is there any idea of which 2 out the remaining 4 are going to be automated if the funding comes through?
Through the chair, there was 4 standpipes that were not funded through the program. There was Tunkilo, Toowoomba, Halfway House, and Swan Reach. So we're looking at doing Swan Reach and Halfway House if those other 2 came on board. So that would be why we'd allocate those fundings too.
Yeah, through the mayor, just a question for Dave. I've heard from locals that Wamby Road is being resheeted at the moment, or section of it. I was just wondering, is that part of our new budget, or is that have the mines come to the party with some funding for that?
Through the chair, it is part of our annual program, but we are having liaised with the both District Council of Corinda in East Murray and the Murray Zircon mine to try to get some compensation out of them. Like we did hear the other day that Murray Zircon mine may cease operations on their current staging, which means that there might not be cartage after probably about November. But we are working with Corinne Murray and having an agreement with Corinne Murray that has an agreement with Murray Zircons on the rehabilitation of Wombi Road. So we are working through that.
Right. Any further questions, councillor McGregor, then councillor Myers?
Yeah, just really me, just a comment. It's really great to see the Blanchetown entrance happening. It looks awesome and really cool. Well done.
Just comment on the new concrete opposite the council chambers in Morgan. Good job, Dave. You got people sort of having a positive attitude there.
Only a sprint.
It's only Tuesday.
That's only 9:30.
Well done, Kevin, you can take credit for that. Yeah, I'm on council now. Thank you, everyone. I think everyone has spoken. Does anybody else have any questions or should close off? No, if not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? And against, that is carried. And yes, same as the team, I was very impressed by the report. It's so great to see all the different things we do in all the different areas. 10.2. The recommendation is that the River Murray flood recovery status update report on the council agenda be received. The council recognises the restricted timeframes and authorises the CEO to approve works outside council's procurement policy to facilitate the community recreational asset and restoration program projects, utilising council's panel contractors and direct quotations to ensure value for money to the value of 350,000, and that council continues to advocate for further external funding for flood remediation. Do we have a mover for that? Thank you, councillor Harbour. Second up, councillor Chachiki. You wish to speak on that, councillor Harbour? No. Anybody else? No. I just did my little maths, $3.5 million of outstanding works. We have to do a lot of advocacy to try and get that funding, and there's a lot of things that people have been contacting me to say, when are we doing it? So I'm happy to continue that if you let me know when to do it. Okay, so if there's no further questions or comments, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Against, that is carried. Thank you. And point 3. The recommendation is that the Vintage Japanese Motorcycle Club Tri-State Rally event application report be received, that approval be granted to the club to hold a public vehicle display event at Marianne Reserve on Saturday the 30th of August, subject to general conditions, council's minor event permit. That approval be granted for persons taking part in the event to drive and park vehicles on the lawn area of Marianne Reserve, subject to favourable weather conditions, as determined by the Director of IFS, and the CEO be authorised to make minor amendments to the event logistics as required. We have a mover. Thank you, councillor Hammond. Councillor Waters for seconding. Do you want to make on that?
I just want to say that it's great that we're seeing so many little events that are coming into Marianne Reserve. I know Morgan has some as well that use the grasslands there, and just seeing them all come through this month is excellent. My one question that I have in regards to the event is sometimes when we do events, we charge a extra cleaning of the facilities and toilets, that I notice we're not putting that in for these Marianne Reserve events. And I was just wondering whether what the reason is behind that. I just thought maybe there might be a need for cleaning if we're expecting a lot of people to come and look at extra Marianne Reserve traffic, having a look at the bikes and things.
Through the chair, because of the event, we're not perceiving that there'd be any more cleaning requirements given what our standing cleaning is. So we do our standard cleans, but what we would normally do is if there's a multitude of people, we do an intermediate cleaning in the meantime. I believe we don't need to do that this time.
So one anybody else who should speak or have any questions in relation to that item? Not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Against, that is carried. And 24. The motion is, the recommendation is that the Dams by the River request to park cars at Morgan Riverfront Reserve report on council agenda be received, that approval be granted to the Volkswagen Club of South Australia to hold a public vehicle display event on the Morgan Riverfront Reserve on Sunday, the 14th of September 2025, subject to the general conditions of council's minor event. Then, that approval be granted for persons taking part in the event to drive and park vehicles on the lawn area of the reserve, subject to favorable weather. And as the CEO be authorised to make minor amendments to the event logistics as required. Do we have a mover for that? Thank you, councillor Barber and councillor Myers is seconding that. Can you speak on that, councillor Barber? No, councillor Myers. Anybody else wish to speak or have questions? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that's carried. Good. And 5. The recommendation is that the All French Car Day event application report on council agenda be received, that approval be granted for the club Automobile Francius of South Australia to hold a public vehicle display event on Marianne Reserve on Sunday, the 12th of October, subject to the general conditions of council's minor event. Approval be granted, same as the last one, and that the CEO can make minor amendments. Do we have a mover? Thank you, councillor Helen, councillor McGregor, thank you. John, speak on that.
I believe this is the first time that the French car group have had this event here at Marianne Reserve. Would that be correct in thinking? A new group?
Yes, I assume so. I haven't heard of them being here before.
I just have one question in regards to these events when we do them. It probably should have been a question I asked with the Dust by the River one, but when they are regular ongoing and they become part of their annual events that they do, is there ways that we could create sort of approval for these when they are becoming a regular event? So instead of us having to do it every year, that we give, say, a longer standing approval, say for the next 4 years or something, so then we don't have to see them every year coming back to us for the same approval or saving work?
Through Bailey, insurance might change the requirements, so we would need updated applications each year. So
Yeah,
I think
okay.
it's prudent. They
But we
consider
still
it could be bigger, it could be smaller, the requirements may change, so I take the point, but I think it's prudent.
They still
That's-
come to us.
Yeah.
Back advantage the reserve and we don't want them back.
Yeah, that's true.
Who seconded that? Councillor McGregor, who wished to speak?
Yeah, just through the mayor, just to say it's really good to see all these sort of car events and all different cars sort of coming into across the area, and I think it's in line with the tourism, the way in which the tourism River Lakes and Coorong is going as well. So well done.
Yeah. Anybody else wish to speak or have questions in relation to that item? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. 10.6. Okay, the recommendation is the Manning Waters Boat Ramp revocation of community land public consultation report on the council agenda be received. The submission summary report from the public consultation phase of the community land revocation process be received. Having considered the submissions received during public consultation phase, council resolves to proceed with the process to revoke community land classification from the following parcels: lot 949 and 951 Pelican Drive, Manning Waters. Council seek approval from the Minister for Local Government for revocation of community land classification on those two parcels, and a subsequent report be presented to council following the receipt of the Minister's decision of the community land classification revocation. We still have a leader for that. Councillor Barber, seconder. Councillor Schultz, thank you. Councillor Barber, do you wish to speak on that? Yes.
Through the mayor, I just wanted to say that as brought up in Athens, unfortunately, there wasn't many submissions in the public consultation, especially considering there's so many people that within the are overlooking this parcel of land. Yeah, just trying to encourage more people to be involved in our public consultation process.
Thank you. Councillor Schultz, do you wish to speak? No. Thanks. Anybody else? Yeah, Councillor Hanlon.
I just have one comment in regards to one of the feedbacks we did receive that was in regards to wanting it to be planted out with more natives and preventing, providing like a wetland environment down there. And I know obviously car parking is very important at Manor Waters, and that hopefully that is what will eventually be happening there as an overflow car park. I just hope they do consider mixing a blend of natural environment with that process if it happens, when it happens, just because obviously that was one response we did receive, was that they would like to see it being a bit more beautified, with more trees and native, you know, for the bird life.
Anybody else have any questions or wish to speak? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? And against, that is carried. Unanimous. 10.7 draft stormwater drainage asset management plan. The recommendation is that the report be received, that council approve the draft stormwater drainage asset management plan version 2 to be released for public consultation in accordance with council's public consultation policy version 6. And council receive a further report to consider any feedback from the public consultation process and adoption of the draft stormwater drainage asset management plan version 2. We have a mover, but thank you, councillor Myers, and a seconder, councillor Pacheco. Thank you. Councillor Myers, who should speak? Councillor Pacheco. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Barber.
Through the chair, I just wanted to make a comment that, reading through the report, I actually found it quite hard to follow the report. So I'm hoping that the public consultation, when it goes out, is easier to follow and understand than the actual report was, because I lost a lot trying to work all that.
We have had feedback in the past on, but the plans are hard to read. Any further questions or comments? I guess for me, I'll just add that, note, audit committee, it's been through audit committee, that for me as a member of the audit committee, I just want everyone to be aware that there's about $7 million of works that are unbudgeted, so, and we're not going to do them unless we get 100% funding, which is really difficult. So it's something that, you know, as we find more sustainability, possibly, you know, get those works on the list. So I did mention to Ben, for me, the little attachment spreadsheet has those projects that are capital that we will not do unless we get the funding in each year. And I just thought maybe because of the way they are, that they could be presented separately. Because if you get to year 4 and find some funding, you do year 4s, if you do year 1s. So that's just, I guess, something I'll think about for when it comes back. If there's no further questions or comments, I'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. 10.8. The recommendation is that the Accelerated Works Program Contractual Engagement Report on the council agenda be received, that council endorse the engagement of contractual services to assist in the delivery of the road network renewal to the value of $2 million. Council delegate the CEO the authorisation of further works above $2 million that are within current budget and carry forward allocations, and a further report be provided to council outlining any works above the $2 million cap if applicable. I'll move it for that motion. Thank you, councillor Barber. Seconder, councillor Pacheco. Thank you. You wish to speak on that, councillor Barber? No, councillor Pacheco. Anybody else wish to speak or have a question? Councillor Hammond.
I just have a question in regards to catching up. So we've done this last year for the 2 million and 1.8 was used, and then we're doing it again for this year, another $2 million. Do we feel that this will be something that will be coming to council again next year, or would you reckon within this time frame we'll be able to catch up with those works that needed after all the flood and COVID and all those setbacks, whether we'll get back to normal operations in the next financial year?
Through the chair, it's envisaged that we are hoping to catch up. We caught up a fair bit last year, so obviously there is still a backlog, and also it is subject to funding. If we get special local roads, that puts more impeding on our work staff. So then we have to look at outsourcing the other works they would normally do. So it really is depending on funding. We are looking at receiving some special local roads for this financial year as well, which will then put an additional burden on their current work program, which means then I may have to just offset some other contractual works.
Any further questions or anyone who wishes to speak on this item? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Against, that is carried. 11.1. Not reading this whole one out. The recommendation is that New Year's Eve 25 short-term roads report be received in accordance with section 131, 1AB of the Liquor Licensing Act. Council prohibit the consumption or possession of both liquor in the following public places and declare these areas short-term dry areas for the purpose of New Year's Eve. And they're on the screen behind me. A notice be published in the Government Gazette at least 14 days before the commencement of the dry area, and the Commissioner of Police be notified within 7 days of publication, and adequate signage in accordance with the dry area guidelines produced by CDS, informing public of the prohibition be erected for the duration of the declaration. We have a mover, Councillor McGregor and Councillor Myers. Thank you. Councillor McGregor, wish to speak? No. Councillor Myers? No. Anybody else wish to speak? Have any questions? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. 11.2. The recommendation is the review of the Strategic Growth and Economic Activation Committee Terms of Reference report be received, and that council adopts the revised Strategic Growth and Economic Activation Committee Terms of Reference. We have a mover. Councillor Schultz and Councillor Barber is seconding that. Thank you. Councillor Schultz, do you wish to speak? No. Councillor Barber, does anybody else wish to speak or have any questions? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. 11.3, review of the Community Grant Assessment Committee Terms of Reference report on the council agenda be received, and council adopts the revised Community Grants Assessment Committee Terms of Reference. We have a mover, Councillor McGregor, Councillor Warhurst is seconding. Thank you. Do you wish to speak? No. No. Anybody else wish to speak or have any questions? Councillor Chichik, speak.
Maybe just for people watching now or later, just to confirm that these reviews are simply to bring them into line with the new code of practice, procedures of meetings that we've adopted. So it's a more or less a procedural change.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak? Have any questions? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Against, that is carried. At 11.4, review of council bylaws. Okay, the recommendation is the review of council bylaws report on the council agenda be received in exercise of the powers contained in section 246 of the Local Government Act 1999, having satisfied the consultation requirements of the Act and having regard to the outcome of the consultation process, the National Competition Policy Report, the certificates of validity provided by the council's legal practitioner, and the comments from the Doggett Management Board in relation to bylaw number 5 and 6. The majority of council, in the presence of at least 2/3 of its members, hereby makes and passes the following laws. We've got bylaw 1, permits and penalties; 2, movable signs; 3, local government land; 4, roads; 5, dogs; 6, cats; 7, camping and mooring. And that the CEO by authorised to undertake all steps necessary to finalise the bylaw review process and give effect to the newly adopted bylaws, including making any minor editorial or grammatical changes that may be necessary prior to publication of the bylaws in the Gazette.
Yeah, they,
Hey?
they also.
Yeah. That's why I read it. We have a mover for that. Thank you, Councillor Barber, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Tochick and Page. Would you like to speak on that, Councillor Barber?
Just through the chair, just one comment, like as I said earlier, one submission through the public consultation process, which is, in my opinion, is very disappointing. But it was good to see that the change that was put to the dog and cat board just went sailing through, that didn't have any issues with it. Also, that was real. Obviously.
Councillor Tochick, does anyone have any questions, or do you want to add anything, Mum? Oh.
Through the chair, there is obviously an issue that was identified late in the piece with the CATS bylaw with an omission of one definition for identification for a prescribed manner. So we are going to have to do an amendment to that in the coming months. What we're going to be doing is writing to the Legislative Review Committee in the hope that they accept our promise to do that review. We have the option of pulling it right now and not having it go through and being without a bylaw for a certain period of time while we go through the public consultation process again and get that done. So we might be about a month, and we're hoping that by identifying it early, not early enough, identifying it with the Legislative Review Committee, that we can be with the CATS bylaw for that period of time and just not doing any enforcement on the minor emission that we've got there. So that will be something we're going to be coming back to council in the coming months with.
Anybody else have any questions? So my only question was adding those reserves. Do we have an answer to that?
Yeah. So the list of the
Reserves.
Yeah, through the mayor. So with the, sorry, this question was if the listing of the reserves needs to be part of the bylaw review. This is no, it does not. So when council decides to list an area as either a camping reserve or a mooring area or under our dogs bylaw, if we want to prohibit dogs from a certain area, that is a separate process from the bylaw review. And it can just be done as a council meeting. Council makes that resolution. So it's not going through this whole process and costing council legal fees, going to LRC, a Legislative Review Committee. And in the case of the dogs or cats one, going back to the Dog and Cat Management Board, or sometimes with the roads bylaw going to Department of Infrastructure and Transport for their comments on it. So those are a separate, less administrative requirements on there.
And the only other point I had was in the camping ones, it specifically talks about payment being tickets and not very open, whereas down below when it talks about mooring, it says pays prescribed fee, if any, in a manner determined by council. I just thought that way, if we go to an online service, we're able to do that.
Yeah, certainly have looked, sorry, through the chair, have looked at that. At the moment, we're restricted technology, even with areas where it might be considered that we charge for camping. There is limited phone service from one or another provider. Looking at the payment into, it says specifically pay the fee into the ticket machine, which implies coins. You can use a credit card to tap and go. Looking at down the track, if that can be not having tickets physically issued and it's electronically recorded so officers can see the information and people can just jump on and do it. That if we're going to have technology advances in our area, or certainly service coverage in our area in the next 7 years, an amendment could be undertaken at that point in time. Again, it would be potentially with a cost to council if we are amending it, or we'd look at what processes need to be done or what steps are going to be taken for the implementation of it between now and 7 years' time.
I just note that I'm on a lot of camping sites now. I have a camper van that I never use. And I think the York Peninsula Council does it all via website. It gets booked out and, you know, I think there's really good feedback on that. That's it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly to add on to that through the chair, we've looked at that, trying to do it as an app so you don't have issues with phone coverage, or sorry, not having a credit card.
Yeah.
So where you don't have coins where people can vandalise the. We've got even at Walker Flat, it's one of our fairly popular ones, Swamp End Reserve there. You can have a little bit of service with Telstra, you've got none with Optus. So trying to cover for people who might be in certain circumstances, we're not unfortunately there yet for our council area. So,
As long as we can move forward. Any further questions, comments?
It's not a question, it's just a comment. The national parks one seems to work all right. We just go online and book a site at Cataraqui Creek and pay your money and it's all over and done.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you can get info off them or.
yeah, so through the chair, we're looking at what a number of other councils and other agencies
Yeah.
and trying to get it to cover up. that circumstance is great if you know where you're going. We're trying to cover in for the people who are, like, we're just turning up that night. And it would be very rare for our officers to be there the following morning and go, oh, you haven't got a ticket. And even in those circumstances, it will be quite easily handled or explained to them. But trying to, pre-planning is great. And if we've got that with our service areas, but looking at other options, because not everyone's going to have a mobile phone to do an app, and catering for every set of circumstances is quite difficult.
I just want to make a comment in regards to that, I guess, similar to what you were saying of the pre-planning and areas where you know they're very popular camping areas. People already are aware that you want to go to Deep Creek, you got to book a year in advance, not just a few days in advance. And so people who do go around on holidays often are aware that where we're going to stay that night in Mullarina Hot Springs, we have to book before we go. So we've got a site allocated, because you could rock up and there'd be no sites free at a lot of these other places. So I feel like that push of pre-planning is something we could do, where you're doing it at home before you leave for your holiday, or in the town before you get out there to where there's no cell reception.
Through the chair, just to respond to that, we have looked at that or thought about the possibility. That does mean that we would have to have with each of our areas dedicated campsites set up, and you don't know what frequency is. Certainly for some areas that we only charge at Graham Claxton and Bolto, Haythorpe, whilst it has a provision in there, hasn't got the services there to for the caravan park to start charging. Identifying or having individual campsites, we will have an increased cost to council to set up and then maintain those as well. So it's something we've been looking at and thinking about when we are possibly considering adding extra charged sites. Certainly if you have no charge, but you still, we would need to still have like numbered or individual campsites to ensure that people, if they have gone and booked, there is a site there available for them.
Thanks, Martin. I might just bring it back to the bylaws now and maybe ask for a future briefing on camping, so that we can have a chat about the things that we can do on that. Okay, any further questions, comments? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Against, that is carried. There we go. 11.5. Thanks, Mark. The recommendation is the Dog and Cat Management Plan 25 to 30 report on the council agenda be received, the Dog and Cat Management Plan be adopted, and the CEO or nominee be authorised to make amendments of a minor and or technical nature as part of the finalisation of the Dog and Cat Management Plan 2025 to 2030. Have we got Linda, thank you, Councillor McGregor, and Councillor Myers is seconding that. Or do you wish to speak on that? Yes.
And then just through the chair, it's not so much about the actual plan, but more on the table with the budget allocation. And I did shoot an email to Gary over the weekend, so it's probably as a response to this, but it sort of shows the operating expenses at 158,000 and budgeted operating income at 138,000. I thought that we sort of had some discussion previously that the income, we wanted the income to cover the expenses. So, and it's sort of, it doesn't appear in that sort of thing. So just a little bit of a, just noting it, and if there's any feedback or any information.
Thank you. Any further, anyone else?
So through the chair, ultimately that's a decision of council as to whether it wishes to increase the dog registration fees. Obviously through Mark's previous reports, it's about keeping dog registrations affordable. If you want full cost covering, then council will have to seriously consider increasing registrations for dogs.
Or introducing cat registration fees, which is something that I would really like to see us consider in the next 5 years of this plan. I think it's pretty unfair that dog people are expected to increase their fees to have a dog, whereas cat people, it's just done on an honour system of we'd like you to register them. We can have a time period where we're allowing people to get on board with microchipping and desexing and getting their cats registered voluntary. But I do think we should be considering a fee for cats to then help make us balance out.
I think that if you want to go down the path of increasing the fees, you sort of need to do it a different part of the year? Because like I've already done mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, not now, obviously,
It'll be looking
in
at
the
next
future,
year.
next year's.
So through the chair, just to go back to councillor Hammond, that's why I included in the CATS bylaw, the option for future proofing that should council in the next few years want to put that in there. That's what we've got in there.
And cats do have to be registered. but-
They'd be registered.
The registration process is their information must be recorded in Dogs and Cats Online. There's no specific, there's no charge fee, but that is still the registration process for them. That's correct.
Any further questions or comments in relation to this item? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. Thank you. 11.6. The recommendation is that Light Management Plan, River Murray International Dark Sky Reserve and Dark Sky Policy Report be received, that council note and receive the submission summary report, that the revised Light Management Plan, River Murray International Dark Sky Reserve version 2 and revised Dark Sky Policy version 2 be adopted and the CO be authorised to make amendments of a minor and or technical nature as part of the finalisation of the revised Light Management Plan. And that's your policies. Do we have a mover? Councillor Barber, thank you. Councillor Hammond, thank you. Councillor Barber, do you wish to speak? No. Councillor Hammond, do you wish to speak? No. Anybody else wish to speak? That's not what I think.
On page 368, it actually says, in the light of what we've been talking about, the limited community engagement when we do the consultations, that there were 167 views and 108 downloads, and then 3 submissions received. So from that, I would draw the conclusion that there's not a lot of issues for people with it. There was some interest, fortunately.
Through the mayor, yeah, I'd like to highlight that too. I want to demonstrate, I think with the new platform, we can now actually present that information back to elected members. So engagement may not result in a response, but it's actually showing that people are actually viewing the documents that are out there. So you take that as a positive, that people are actually engaging with council. The fact that there's only 1 or 2 submissions is not necessarily negative. It just means that potentially people are comfortable with what we're presenting.
I just have a question in regards to that, and how many, is there a way with that platform for us to be able to assess whether they're happening internally from people at staff level, looking on the website and clicking on the links to see if they're working, or externally? There is a way.
Through the mayor, yes, there is. And so the figures presented there are the externals.
Sorry about that.
Good question. Fabulous new system. And I guess for us as elected members, if we're going to community events and meetings, let's be mentioning in consultation, let people know we really value their feedback. It makes our decision-making process easier if we know what people are thinking. Any further questions, discussion in relation to that item? If not, we'll put that motion out. All those in favour and against, that is carried. 11.7, revocation of busking policy. The recommendation is that the report be received, that council revoke the busking policy and the council's registers of fees and charges be updated to include a $10 annual fee as part of the busking permit application form. Do we have a mover? Councillor Barber, Councillor McGregor, Councillor Barber, do you wish to speak? No, Councillor McGregor, do you wish to speak? Councillor Pojek, do you wish to speak?
So I would say the 11.6 review of light management.
We just did that.
We just did that.
Because
You had comments.
okay, so
Thanks for keeping me on track. Councillor Hammond?
I have a few things to say in regards to this one. Just with regards to our permit, or that we're going to be providing people, there's a few clauses in there that I just thought maybe are going to be hard for people in regards to, you know, the public liability insurance. How many musicians would have that, the capacity of the $10 million? That might be something for someone who's a singer-songwriter that's put out a CD and is running it as an actual business. But if you're just a local street musician who's just getting better at their performance and their craft, they're less likely going to have that certificate of currency.
They can get it, and it's quite affordable. Like, so our market stall holders have to have it.
So are we saying that if they didn't have this, then they wouldn't be able to classify a permit?
Public liability, $10 million is pretty standard.
Sure. I just think when we're talking about street musicians, it's less likely, I mean, the thing about this permit that I find that's interesting a little bit is, you know, we've got it. We've had 4 people apply for the daily permit in the last 5 years. We don't really have any way to really police or control this. Most people who are busking are going to be busking on the weekends when council's closed. What is the process if they're coming here on a Saturday afternoon and they want to busk? We're closed, they wouldn't be able to do it online necessarily, would they? So it's like it requires a pre-planning that we're expecting them to have engaged with. And I just feel often these things like we don't have the way to control or police it. People will be told, do you have a permit? They'll just probably move on. We don't have many buskers, like we're saying in this anyway, that come to our community. And so part of me felt like, well, a young, young violinist in the area that's going to be doing it, she's not going to have, it's affordable if you're running it as a business. But if you're just a local musician trying to get out there and play some songs, it's, insurance is probably about, $500 and something a year that they'd be expending on for artists. I don't know, I just feel like that element of it, I think, and also I noticed that we, I don't know, part of me just felt like with the rules around it of between 9 and 6 p.m, I was like, people often are going to be performing outside of that daylight savings in summer. It doesn't get dark till 9:30. People would be maybe doing evening, if there was to be a situation where they'd be doing it in the evening. I thought there was some elements of the actual permit application that could be modified, just to make it a little bit more easier for them and more likely for them to actually go through the process of filling out our application. If we make it too restrictive, we'll have no one really filling it out. It almost is like, it's a nice idea, but we've got no way of controlling it and actually policing it. And would we be putting in effort to then have compliance officers going around and checking them? And I think if someone got told you don't have a permit, move on, they would just move on, as opposed to going through that process on Monday morning and getting the permit if they are just here for a weekend. They're my points.
Yeah, I guess that's why we're doing a year, an annual, so $10 you apply at the start, you can come as many times, whereas the last one you did have to apply each time. So I think we're making it more accessible for people. You do have to have insurance. Like I said, my daughter is only 15 and runs a cake business and she has to have insurance, and hers is only $200 a year. So there are insurances out there that cover these sorts of things, but we do have to cover risk as council, because if someone trips over the violin container, then who's liable? So, and I think $10 million is quite low. A lot of our other things are 20 million. So I think we are being quite nice to allow this to happen. Gary, sorry, Councillor McGregor and Councillor Gardner.
Yeah, just through the mayor, just in response to that, I mean, I don't think that people accidentally find themselves in Manham on a weekend or Morgan or any of our areas. It would sort of have to be by design that you get in a vehicle and get here. So, I think that's requires some sort of pre-planning, and I think that is not unreasonable to expect. That's just.
Yeah, through the chair, just in response to the insurance policy, when my wife and I were doing a fundraiser at the Truck and Wheat Show, there was nothing in it for us, but we had to have insurance cover just to do a fundraiser for a charity. So yeah, it's just the way things are these days, unfortunately.
It's the day and age, but I guess if there's any feedback, once this is in process, you'll bring that back to council. And I guess my only other point was the insurance was highlighted. There's nothing in the little terms and conditions that they have to keep insurance. So I guess that's my only point, is to make sure that, it might end next month, will they go and get a new one? So just that the busker signs off that they will have insurance over that whole time. Hang on, you've already spoken.
I just want to respond to both of your comments, but no.
Can't speak. Yeah. Okay, so anybody else that hasn't spoken wish to speak? And the mover, would you like to close out? No. Okay, we will put that motion up. All those in favour and against? Is carried. 11.8. The recommendation is the volunteer code of conduct report on the council agenda 19th August 2025 be received. The proposed volunteer code of conduct be endorsed as an operational document and referred to the senior management team for consideration and adoption. We have a mover. Councillor Myers, thank you, and seconder, Councillor Barber, thank you. Councillor Myers, wish to speak? No. Councillor Barber, wish to speak? Does anybody else wish to speak? Question, Councillor Hammond?
Yes, I do have a comment in regards to the code of conduct. In regards to the volunteer's responsibility when it comes to alcohol and illicit drugs, I noticed that it sort of is pretty loose there, that volunteers, as long as they've got the ability to feel like they can still maintain their duties, they're allowed to supposedly be under the influence of alcohol or illicit drugs. I feel like we should have a zero policy on illicit drugs, and prescription drugs are definitely a different story if someone has a medical condition for needing medicinal medication. But I think, and I can understand if the volunteers are at a social gathering, like we have a volunteers dinner or something, and they're, you know, they're having a glass of wine at an event like that. But I think for, say, most of our volunteers, it should be a no alcohol policy and a zero illicit drugs policy for volunteering on any of our areas of council.
Thank you. And if this motion gets up, it's an operational document, so I guess the team will take that on board.
Could you just, sorry for you, Mayor Bailey, what, clause, just so.
It's in the, oh, let me just try and find exactly what page it was on, but it was in, I think it's in their rights and responsibilities. So it's a big document, but I did see it in there, and I remember when we looked at the privacy in our confidential items at the end of today. Oh, yeah, 4 point, did you find it?
435. Having a blood alcohol reading greater than the law allows for the activity being undertaken or being under the influence of alcohol, illicit drugs or prescription medication while performing duties such that judgment is impaired or the person is not fit for duty as outlined in council's fit for work policy procedure.
So that says example of serious inappropriate action include but are not limited to that.
Just thought it was a bit loose of that maybe we should have like a zero alcohol, zero illicit drug policy for volunteer staff.
I need to read the document, but how I interpret that is you're not allowed to do those things.
Yeah, examples of serious inappropriate action include that. So it doesn't say allows that.
It's the breaches of the code of conduct.
Yeah.
But maybe we can have a chat offline if you've got, if you can point out where your concerns were and we'll consider it, but we obviously have a fit for work for policy as well, which volunteers as employees have to abide by, but if there's an area there that we've missed something, then please let us know.
So it seemed to be great.
And the only thing I've noticed missing is I do know some volunteers spend council money, so there's something about procurement in there to make sure that they have knowledge of, you know, they get reimbursed and things, so just to cover that sort of stuff. That's all I could say is missing, but yeah, like I said, if this motion gets passed, it'll be up to staff, and I guess if anyone else has any comments, they can feed that back to them or Gary.
Yeah, please do that, thank you.
Any further questions, comments in regards to that item? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? And again, that is carried. 11.9. The recommendation is that the Disability Access and Inclusion Plan Update Report is received and the review of council's Disability Access and Inclusion Plan be progressed in line with the timeframe outlined by the state government and council's budget allocation. Councillor Hammond, thank you. Councillor McGregor, thank you. Do you wish to speak on that?
Yeah, the state government document looks awesome of like having accountable measures and tangible ways we can show that we're doing things within our plan. The point I wanted to make was that in the report that we received of our original disability inclusion plan from 20 to 25, I was wondering if we could see a report that shows where we went at the end of those 5 years, how many of those things on our list were successful. It does say years where they were completed and some that say that they're ongoing. I just thought we could maybe get a summary from one of the directors of how each one of those line items worked, how many did we implement? So we can just get a summary of the last 5 years plan to see how effective it was and where we're making steps forward with our disability inclusion. And the other point I wanted to make was just in regards to engaging a consultant. We engaged a consultant in 2020 for our original plan. And obviously now we've been given a state directive that is quite thorough and shows where council is to work within. And I was just wondering whether it was necessary to have a consultant as opposed to us doing our in-house engagement with our local people living with a disability and their carers, and being able to create an actual stronger grassroots connection with those ratepayers and members of our community. And it could be beneficial for, say, advisory body to be formed from people living with a disability and carers in our community, something along those lines to engage them meaningfully in this. I've had a bit of feedback in regards to consultants is, you know, shouldn't we be consulting as opposed to engaging a consultant to consult with our community? Like, it would just have more strength coming from us.
Through the mayor, in terms of the progress report, yes, we can provide an up-to-date one. We have been providing council with progress reports as part of the reporting that we do for the data. So we could do an overall summary of that. In terms of engaging consultant, yes, while this is a more of a template style plan, I still believe that the need for a consultant who specialises in disability access and inclusion, it's fairly a specific area that staff may not have full comprehension around. So I think it is worthwhile having a combined use of consultant and staff to prepare the plan.
Thank you, Gary. Any further questions?
So just through the chair, our previous staff member had those skills as well, so we potentially lead on that person more, but now if that person moving on, engagement of those specialised.
Any further questions, comments, or does anybody else wish to speak on that item? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Yes, that is carried. 11.10.
Oh, there we go. Before we get started, I have a material conflict of interest pursuant to Section 75 of the Local Government Act 1999. My material conflict of interest is my partner is the president of the Mountain Football Club. I will leave the meeting room, including any area set aside for the public, ensuring I cannot view or hear any discussions or vote at the meeting. I will stay out of the meeting room while the matter is being discussed and voted on.
Thank you. You may have my office.
Thank you.
Okay, the recommendation is the Play Our Way project site location for the new female chamber and facility report on the council agenda be received. Council endorses a period of public consultation in accordance with the public consultation policy on the proposed site location for the new female chamber and facility at the Manning Oval Complex and Showgrounds, and in relation to the requirements of public consultation for the proposed site. Should any submissions be received, a subsequent report will be presented to council, and if no submissions are received, then the proposed option will be adopted and progress for the purpose of lodging and development application. Do we have a mover? Councillor Barber, thank you. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Churchill, thank you. Councillor Barber, do you wish to speak on this item? Right, Councillor Churchill.
Through the mayor. Just to confirm that the proposed site is actually, there's nothing there at the moment, is there? So it's an open, available space, which is everything. So,
Does anybody else wish to speak or have any questions? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. Thank you.
Do we grab it?
Thank you. And Victoria, she'll be back in a minute.
Oh,
Big
thanks, Rich.
window.
All right.
Thank you.
So,
Oh, let's do that.
Okay, 11.1, the recommendation is the Mid-Murray Tourism Precinct Planning Project Report on the council agenda be received and the Mid-Murray Tourism Precinct Planning Project be included in the strategic growth and economic activation committee work plan for 2024 to 2027. We have a mover, Councillor Myers, seconder, Councillor McGregor. Thank you. Councillor Myers, do you wish to speak?
No.
Councillor McGregor.
Yeah, just really good to see that the funding that they've received to get this project sort of started. It's really good.
Yes, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? I agree, very exciting. A lot of the start of my term talked about us not having plans, and it's really hard to get grants without plans. So to get a grant to do the plans is fabulous. We might be on track to get a grant to do the stuff later. So thank you for AIM, and I look forward to seeing this grow. If there's no further questions or comments, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. 12.1, a proposed code of practice. The recommendation is the report we received, the council endorses the draft code of practice, access to meetings and documents for the purposes of public consultation for a minimum period of 21 days in line with our policy. And in relation to the requirement of public consultation under section 202 of the Local Government Act, should any submissions be received, or a report will be presented to the council. Should no submissions be received, the document would be adopted. The CEO will be authorised to make any minor amendments to the code of practice, and the old code of practice will be revoked. Do we have a mover? Councillor McGregor, thank you. Councillor Waterhurst is seconding that. Councillor McGregor, do you wish to speak on that? No. Councillor Waterhurst, no. Anybody else wish to speak or have any questions? No. Well done, Laura. Thank you. So if there's no questions, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. Thank you. 12.2.
Before we get started, I'd just like to declare my material of conflict of interest. I consider that I have material conflict of interest pursuant to section 75 of the Local Government Act 1999. My material conflict of interest is because of financial gain in 12.2 and also a loss that I'd be receiving in attending for 12.3. So for these next two agenda items, I will leave the meeting room, including any areas set aside for the public, ensuring I cannot view or hear any discussion or vote at the meeting, and will stay out of the meeting room while the matter is being discussed and voted on. Thank you. See you in a bit.
You must have markers. Okay, the recommendation is the local government representative on the Country Arts SA Board on the council agenda be received, that Councillor Victoria Hammond be endorsed by council to be nominated as a potential LG representative on the Country Arts SA Board, and the CEO be authorised to submit the nominations by the 5th of September 2025. We have a mover for that. Councillor Waterhurst, thank you. Councillor Myers is seconding, thank you. Do you wish to speak on that? No. Councillor Myers, no. Does anybody else wish to speak on that? Do I have any questions, comments? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Against, that is carried. Thank you. And 12.3, the recommendation is that the local government representative on the SA Drought Advisory Group report in council agenda be received. Councillor Victoria Hammond be endorsed by council to be nominated as a potential LG representative on the SA Drought Advisory Group, and that the CEO be authorised to submit the nomination by the 5th of September 2025. We have a mover for that. Councillor Myers, we have a second for that. Councillor Waterhurst, thank you. Councillor Myers, do you wish to speak?
No.
No. Councillor Waterhurst, do you wish to speak? No. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Schultz and Councillor McGregor.
I can't support this recommendation because I think that the Drought Advisory Committee should be made up of hands-on experienced farmers who are living the drought nightmare, and I considered nominating for this. But I came to the conclusion that I didn't have enough knowledge to do the job properly.
Thank you, councillor. Brenda?
Yeah, I just wanted to say also acknowledge councillor Hammond's qualifications and experience and passion in the permaculture, landscape design and sustainable practices. Given that the SA Drought Advisory Group's purpose is to ensure coordinated cross-commodity whole of government response to the challenges of the drought, with a strong emphasis on listening and engaging with farmers, primary producers and regional communities. For our district, it's really important that the local voices of lived experience of the drought are clearly represented. With reference to the drought, the Commissioner for Drought Support hosted a morning tea. And whilst not everybody could sort of attend, and that was sort of not a thing, there hasn't been any effort or engagement to get some feedback from Councillor Hammond to see what we sort of talked about, discussed, and the views that are there. And as far as sort of engagement with our community who are affected by the drought, yeah, I had a look back on our monthly EM reports, and there's no attendances for Councillor Hammond in any of the committee meetings that she's a part of, and there's sort of quite a few, which is a little bit concerning. So it sort of it's really hard to gather how she can sort of obtain the views of the community. And that, so it's a little bit concerning about that. Yep, and I just think, just given the importance of strong local representation, accountability and clear connection with the farming community, I think it's just reason to question whether the nomination serves our district's needs best at this time. And for these reasons, I can't support the nomination. I have asked the question whether there is a person currently in that role representing us outside of this chamber, and I have asked that of Mayor David, so if you want to share the reply that you gave to me.
Sure.
Thank you.
So currently Mayor Simmons from the Coorong District Council is in this role. He was put into this role without this process because it needed to happen so far. So he's been in that role for, wow,
18 months.
yeah, a fair while. And he's doing a great job. There's and he's, you know, made calls to me to ask about our region and what we're doing. So I do know that he's thoroughly you know, into this process. He is a farmer and knows a lot of farming, and obviously his area has a lot of farming as well. So I do believe he's doing a great job. And as part of my role on the MRLGA board, we discussed this nomination, and we were asked to support a letter being written to the local government association to support his application, because we're concerned that, you know, if you put somebody else new in, how are they going to catch up on where we are? And I think, like what I said, is a really important issue for farmers at the moment that are living and breathing this, that, you know, we remain steadfast and we do what's right, you know, especially when you've got different things like algal blooms coming in. We want to make sure that we're still in that room and we're fighting for what's right for our farmers. Does anybody else have anything to say? That's Barbara.
Just through the chair, as I acknowledge the Councillor Hammond's qualifications as far as landscaping goes. I believe she's been doing it for quite some time. But I feel that this role is so important for such a broad range of experience and knowledge that I'm just not sure if she's qualified for the position in my.
Anybody that hasn't spoken wish to speak? If not, you don't want to close out?
The only thing I would say, the vote will tell.
Okay, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? And against? That motion is lost. welcome back. Congratulations, you were supported with the arts role.
Yep.
There was a lot of discussion with the other role, and I maybe watched the playback to get some feedback, but I'm also happy to have a chat with you.
Sure.
That one.
So I was unsuccessful in the
So
other
no, it
one.
was not
Supported, okay.
okay, 12.
Good, is it possible to make a comment or not really? No.
No. We can chat later. 12.4, Regional Development Australia, Murraylands and Riverlands. The recommendation is that a report be received that given no funding agreement was in place for the 24-25 financial year, council does not support the funding request from Regional Development Australia, Murraylands and Riverlands for the work calculated to have been undertaken in 24-25. And that Regional Development Australia, Murraylands and Riverland be advised that council supports a working partnership with them in 25-26 to deliver projects that are of benefit to the Mid-Murray region, but on a fee for service basis. Councillor Gregor and Councillor Barber is seconding that. Do you wish to speak on that?
Yeah, just through the chair. I know in our meeting, 16th of April, 2024, when we discussed this and we sort of did decide that, you know, we weren't going to go on with the funding. So it's a little bit bold to sort of suddenly give us an invoice for retrospectively. Interesting.
Thank you. Councillor Barber, do you wish to speak?
I just through Mayor Bailey, just want to reiterate that we support a regional approach, economic development and the work that the RDA does is important, and we want to continue to work with the organisation on that. But identify opportunities that are going to benefit both Mid-Murray and the broader region, and also the community as well. So I don't want it to be seen as if we're not supportive of that regional approach. We just think that on a fee for service or the ongoing conversations about where the best value is for our business. We have a budget, which is the allocation of the agreement, which we can have discussions. We've also had conversations with our counterparts at other MRLGA councils around working together to do that when there's commonality to do something collectively. So just wanted to make that point that we are supportive of a regional approach.
And anyone? Yes.
I just wondered whether other councils are following the same process that we've gone through, which I support as not becoming paid up members at the moment. The other thing is that they do, I saw there's a grant process available just for regional development committees, which is a significant amount of money nationally, significant. This round is just out at the moment. So, you know, I'd also be interested in a little bit of feedback on, at some point, on why they're then asking for the regional councils to make a contribution when they receive a large amount of money anyway. So, yeah, that's just a comment.
Thank you. Councillor Myers.
I think the original concept going back many years ago when regional development was formed was actually fully funded by the federal government. I mean, if you go back to Bretton Lewis's days when he had his office in Murray Bridge, it was very rare to come out and put the hand out to the councils. They were there to work for the council, not take money off them. So I'm just wondering, is it a political thing that when another party gets in, are they cutting the funds like similar to, you know, like when Labor got in, they cut the fund for the Truro bypass? Are they doing the same for Regional Development Australia?
Through Mayor Bailey, not that I'm aware, there haven't been any funding changes. I think there's a philosophy of trying to have everyone that is a stakeholder in the region investing in programs. So whether that's been a shift, I'm not sure. Take your point that, you know, previously there wasn't that investment.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Not, all put that motion up. All those in favour? And against, that is carried. 12.5, the recommendation is that CEO's monthly report on the council agenda be received. Aruba for that, councillor Barber, thank you. Seconder, it's a little windy, councillor Patrick Peak, thank you. Councillor Barber, do you wish to speak on that?
No, I won't.
I'll take it.
Councillor Patrick Peak? No, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak or have questions? Councillor McGregor?
I'll just through the mayor for the thought back there. But also just in regards to the maybe on the 30th of July with Mayor and LGA President acting LGA, is that just about our next meeting with them here, or is it just a little bit more what that was about?
Through Mayor Bailey, so it was as a result of council's writing to the LGA to invite them to come along to present. As part of that discussion, they invited Mayor Bailey and I to meet as well individually, which we took that opportunity up. And then obviously they were coming today, but that's been postponed to be face to face. So it's been postponed to the next meeting. It was part of that process where we gave feedback. But the elected members obviously want to give their feedback as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
And does anybody else wish to speak or have any questions in regards to the report? Not all for that motion up, all those in favour and yes, that's carried. Yeah. 12.6. The recommendation is the motion actions report on the council agenda be received. We have a mover. Councillor Tochick and Peak, thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Waters, thank you. Councillor Tochick and Peak, no. Anybody else wish to speak or have any questions? No. If not, we'll put that up. All those in favour? Then that is carried. Thank you. 13.1. And we have Andy here, if there's any questions. The recommendation is the review of maritime assets and operations report be received. That further investigation on the viability of leasing of council's maritime assets and the divestment of operations to other entities be undertaken, including an assessment of potential interest. And further consultation and engagement with key stakeholders be undertaken as outlined in the engagement plan, with the reports to be provided to the Mid-Murray Heritage and Maritime Committee and Council once this work has been undertaken. Do we have a mover? Councillor Myers, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Barber, thank you. Councillor Myers, do you wish to speak on this?
The only thing I'd say is, depending on the elected members, did they want to go into discussion mode on this? I don't know.
Nod of heads if you wish to maybe go out of meeting procedure for 15 minutes to have a discussion. Starting at 10:47. Okay, that's good. That was fairly thorough nod of heads. Okay, who wants to start?
Right. Sorry, can you just help us go on? We need it. Thank you.
Andy, do you want to start? Do you want to answer questions?
Oh, well, maybe we just through the chair. Obviously it's a very detailed report and I acknowledge the work that's gone into this. Only 45 pages, I think. And so there's been a lot of discussions. We've tried to write a balanced report, provide all the information. The cover report notes that there's some assumptions made, some metrics we don't have and data. So we've tried to come up with some science and rationale around that. But we do want to acknowledge that there are assumptions made. Significant part of the business, it's not just about what's right financially or not financially. You've got to consider the volunteer involvement. You've got to consider the economic benefit for the region. Multiple options, as the report also outlines. You need to consider whether there's interest, just because it's the right thing, whatever that is. There's that engagement that does need to happen, and whether that's an entity we say we would like to potentially consider outsourcing the operations. So there needs to be a party that does that. So I think that's probably just a summary, Andy. There's a lot of information in there. We acknowledge that there's been some consultation. There's been workshops with the elected members and the committee But we feel it's appropriate that we need to have further consultation undertaken to make sure that the draft report, and that's probably the first point, this is a draft report, is considered and refined, for then it to come back to council at the appropriate time for decisions. Any
There we are. Yeah, I look forward to writing another 15 pages. Look,
We expect the 30.
okay, I'll extend myself. Thank you. Today, for me, it's an opportunity. Through the whole sustainability review, it's a very complex part of council business, but not an ordinary part of most local government business. So it is important that we get a feel for whether there's appetite for change. We can continue to do what we've always done. We've clearly itemised there is benefit for community and local economy within that. We've also done some soul searching at all levels of the organisation and found that there are some obstacles. There are some improvements that are required, and there are more efficiencies that can be gained. Are we operating the best operational model at the moment? We're doing our best, but possibly in terms of commercial enterprise, it may not be the best operational model. So for me, that is an important opportunity. For river communities, our boats are extremely important. We want to be as positive in our approach to our communities and engaging them properly. If there is an appetite for changing anything, is a really important part of that process. And that will take time, but I think it'll be a valuable exercise. And hopefully we have more than 3 responses.
I'm certain we will have 3 responses. Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I have a question in regards to how the Mid-Murray Heritage and Maritime Committee have obviously advised that they wouldn't want any of the boats separated, the Murray and the Mayflower in particular, not to be divvied up or divested individually. Can I get a bit more information as to why that is?
In fairness, we've held one workshop with the Murray Heritage Maritime Committee, and it was only a workshop. It wasn't a formal decision-making process. It was information seeking, sharing, and ideas. The concept to not separate Marion and Mayflower particularly was the feel of the committee members present on the day. But we need to do more work in that space.
I think we made through Mayor Bailey, we made the comment that the attractiveness of splitting them might be less attractive for an entity. The Mayflower is able to generate revenue, it's turnkey, whereas obviously the Marion is more intense. So potentially, if you do split them, then there may not be as much interest. But that needs to be
If council
explored.
keep one, then we're competing against the other one that we know is going to make a loss.
I don't know if Kevin, Councillor Myers wants to add anything to that.
Yeah, it just says on page 615 that about the Maritime Committee recommending PS Marion and PW Mayflower are not split, and those vessels continue to operate out of Manor. Maybe that's their reasoning why they want them together.
And that can be further, we can ask questions as we go through this process.
Without the investing, obviously, we're looking at non-for-profits, creating a non-for-profit entity that would take on, say, there was, explained here, there would be some interest in Morgan for a non-for-profit to maybe already take on the Canally. And I just thought that the idea of the Marion being a historical ship that is, it wouldn't be the same group that would be wanting both. It would be a community group, obviously, in Morgan that would want to engage with that one, and then another one would be wanting for the Manham area. I guess that's my questioning around the Mayflower being separate as a, not being a steamboat, not being, I mean, it's still a traditional boat because it is turnkey, that someone who was going to maybe invest in the idea of having, like a Proud Mary vibe would maybe just want one boat instead of 2. I just thought about like that, not that, I mean, it would stop running on a Manham.
I think the Marion Mayflower non-separation thing really comes from the makeup of the board. So you've got the chair and a few other members that they are very dedicated volunteers on Marion.
Mm.
They are also very close in friendship with the person who bought the Mayflower and donated it to the council. So there is that bond there. And I believe nobody wants to see any of the boats separated but I believe that the Canali and the Marion could make a go of it with not for profit incorporated. But as it stands now, you've got Friends of the Marion and you've got a small group that puts out a newsletter called Friends of the Canal, Baltimore. But both of those entities are not really entities. They are not incorporated bodies. They're just groups of people that got together. Whereas you got the Chamber of Inland Rivers, which I'm chair of, is an incorporated body and represents all boats right through to Echuca. That's the group maybe in Morgan
They might be interested in.
may be interested,
Okay.
but it's not the sort of thing that you can ask Andy, getting the chamber made in an incorporated body was a nightmare, I'm telling you. So these other groups would have to do that.
It's a process.
Yeah, so it's not like us as councillors can make a decision and within 3 months, these boats are going to, probably looking at 2 years,
Potentially longer if it's requiring someone, a new entity to want them.
But being involved in the boats, I am sort of friendships with the Oscar W group and the industry group, which are both incorporated bodies that run boats. And they've both got council sitting above them that actually own those boats. So it can work. But depends on what degree the council want to go to. I'll give you an example of the Oscar W. The council pays the insurance and the slipping. But the group of people there save their money pretty hard to try and pay the slipping for themselves, which relieves the burden on council. Like I think the last slipping, they paid 50% of it, so council didn't have to pay the full lot. And they really hope that the next one in 2 years' time, they will have enough money to pay the 100%. But you can't just put a incorporated body together with no money in the bank and expect them in 6 months to pay the slipping fee of a boat.
There's a handover phase and definitely
Yeah,
expected in this
definitely,
process, so it could be.
And I think all of that will come up during this investigation process, and I think that's why it's really great that staff have recommended that we just go through a full consultation and, go back to the board. So there's just so much more work that can be done.
And if I can just foreshadow, for me, I've been looking, completely respecting the way people feel about that aspect of our tourism. Absolutely, I understand all that and support. What you're talking about, explorations like you're talking about completely. But for me, when I look at tourism, I look at the whole picture. And what I want to consider is what are the sustainable aspects of our tourism? Obviously, tourism is hugely important to this region. So, for instance, if you're looking at what has the most bang for its buck, perhaps, and I know we don't want to run an observatory at the Dark Sky Reserve, but if there were one at the International Dark Sky Reserve, then you're attracting worldwide interest in among scientists, students, school groups, and others interested in astronomy. So even if we weren't involved in running something like that, and I support the direction we're going in making it independent, the Dark Sky Reserve, I think that we could look at some level perhaps of council sponsorship of something like that to support the tourism drive. So when I look at the whole area of tourism, I also want to just comment on, and I know this will all come up again, that we've already got a shortage of wood, we've already got competition for volunteers, and that's not going to get easier and better. So when we're looking at the whole of tourism, we need to look at what's the most bang for buck with minimal manpower and, you know, and easiest access to resources. So that will be my umbrella view in the future. I agree with you completely. It's a long-term position on thing.
Yeah, but there's also, if you look at the volunteers, a lot of volunteers start volunteering and their first smack on the back of the head, I'll put it, is all the paperwork.
Yeah, exactly.
And you lose a good 50% of it due to that. Whereas if I go up to Renmark and see them there and they're gonna cruise and say, I want to become a volunteer, I walk up the gangplank, get on the boat, I signed a form that covers me for insurance. I pay $30 membership to the Friends of the Industry. That's the end of the story.
So I think the point that you made that about the bureaucracy and the impact of that on volunteers is absolutely valid as well. There's an awful lot to discuss.
Could be some
It's a-
great outcomes.
Well, I think this is a long-term direction we're talking about. I agree, it's going to take time.
I want to make a comment in regards to the wood and sustainability measures for keeping a steamboat going into the future of something that is sort of burning wood and is not necessarily the greatest for the environment, and getting wood from habitat for that boat. I think a sustainability measure that should be made for all steam engines in Australia is, if we are going to go forward with it, that there's wood lots where wood is grown specifically for the marine and to be fed into the marine, and that is a sustainability measure of how many times they can go out based on how established their woodlot is. And there are things that I know that are in place in other industries. Say the Pitchy Ritchie does a similar thing up there. There's no wood up there. They've got to have a woodlot where they grow, and in 10 years, those trees are ready to be felled, and they've got a 10-year succession plan of every 10 years knowing how many times they can power that little beautiful steam engine based on their own wood supply. And I think that's a sustainability closed loop system that could be engaged with the marine for sustainability long term on it.
Back to the draft report, do we feel like we've got enough information to go back into the meeting? Councillor McGrath?
Yeah, I just wanted to, just in regards to the, engagement plan, is to just make sure that our community is covered with enough opportunity to feedback. And I have expressed some concerns to Ben, has, said that, yes, there is a, mechanism for survey, for our community members, but within the report, we use this sort of term, interested community, ratepayers, broader Mid-Murray community. So to me, they're the same person. So it was just a little bit vague as to, if we're talking about the same person, maybe the terminology needs to be the same across the whole lot. And also, how does it look to our ratepayers? We're sort of going out to the stakeholders involved, and there's quite a bit to this report. It's a huge report and a lot of work gone into it. It's really good. But, you know, we're sort of, our engagement internally first, for the first month, we don't live in a bubble, so that's going to sort of filter out. It's just, you know, how we're going to sort of manage our ratepayers, feeling that we've already consulted with others and that there is a second event.
No, I don't think this will be the be all and end all of consultation. I suspect once it comes back to council, there'll be more consultation once we've made a decision. So I think there'll be plenty of time, and it is up to us as elected members to get out into our community, turn up to those community meetings and add it to the agenda, tell them what we're doing, even if it is the school committee. You know, there's people that use the boats, or, you know, use the agenda and things like that. So, we will go back in the meeting now, but that 15 minutes is up. Is it got there? Okay, so, yes, we did read it out. Yes, and we got a mover and a seconder. Did the mover speak? No. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, I've just got one very quick question for Andy. If this motion goes through, where to, what's your next step?
Good question. Through the mayor, firstly, we'll be having a conversation with the CEO. However, I think we'll be ready to devise a part of the engagement plan and start with that within 2 weeks.
Councillor Barber, you're the second, do you speak on that? No, does anybody else wish to speak on the motion or ask any questions, provide feedback? No, would you like to close out?
That's it.
That's it, perfect. All right, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? And against, that is carried. Thank you. 14.1, I recognise it's a summary of the audit and risk. And thank you, Andy, for the amazing work that you've done on that, by the way. Very, very good. Summary of the audit and risk committee meeting report be received and the minutes be received. Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Pacheco Peak, Gary, the seconder. Councillor McGregor, thank you. Councillor Pacheco Peak, speak. No, Councillor McGregor. No, does anybody else wish to speak or have any questions or feedback in relation to that item? No. If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Against, that is carried. 14.2, the recommendation is the minutes of the Strategic Growth and Economic Activation Committee meeting held on 30th of July be received and the minutes be received. We have a mover for that. Councillor Schultz, thank you. And seconder, Councillor McGregor, thank you. Councillor Schultz, do you wish to speak? No. Councillor McGregor, no. Does anybody else wish to speak or have questions, feedback, discussion on that item? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour and against, that is carried. 14.3, the recommendation is the minutes of the Community Grant Assessment Committee meeting held on 22nd of July report be received and the minutes be received. We're going to move up for that. Councillor Waters, thank you. And second, Councillor Pacheco. Thank you. You should speak. Anybody else wish to speak? I have questions, feedback, discussion. If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? Carry. Thank you. 15.1, Mayor's monthly report. The recommendation is that the report be received. We have a mover. To everyone, Councillor Barber, thank you. Yeah, do we have a seconder? Councillor Warhurst, thank you. Councillor Barber, do you wish to speak? Thank you. Oh, I don't really want to make you anxious about speaking. Sorry, Councillor Barber. It's a bit of an inside joke that he always reads our report. And we feel like, are we looking at him to tell us that we're doing a good job? Councillor Walker's nothing from me. Does anybody else wish to speak? Any questions, discussion on that report? If not, we'll put that motion up. All those in favour? And again, that is carried. 16, the recommendation is elected members monthly report on the council agenda being received. We have a mover, Councillor Barber, seconder, Councillor McGregor, Councillor Barber, do you wish to speak? McGregor, Councillor Pacheco Peak and Councillor Schultz.
Just an amendment to mine. I wasn't able to make the Palmer Collier Park Community Association AGM.
And I wasn't able to make the Mid-Murray Land Care AGM and I got the date wrong anyway, that's a typo.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Myers.
I'll just get Carol to add that I went to the Morgan meeting last night with the NCDTA.
Thank you. Any further questions, discussion, feedback? Good job, elected members. I'll put that motion up. All those in favour? And again, that is carried. Motions with notice there. Nil. Questions with notice there is one. And I will read it out. The question was, why has $86,110 been allocated to the 25-26 budget? That's by planning and what exactly is the planning for? I ask these questions as the 25-26 budget by sub-function, item 9.4, attachment 3 in the council meeting agenda last month. In the environmental general sub-function, line number 3800-345, EnviroGen expenses. There's a budget change of $86,110 to dark sky planning, which is a little ambiguous. Given that this amount is not insignificant, I would like a more detailed explanation, as many of our ratepayers are doing it tough. And it would have been more transparent and open if this could be thoroughly explained. Do you want to bring the response?
Sure, Mayor Bailey. Response, the environmental general operations expenditure budget for 2024-25 was initially set at $19,943, and this covered the following: EnviroGen other general expenses of $3,500 and the Corella control plan of $16,443. The Corella budget was reduced to $5,000 as part of the Q3 budget review. This reduced the overall budget down by $11,443. Current budget of $94,610 for 25-26 is made up of the following: EnviroGen other general expenses of $3,610, Corella control plan of $16,000, Dark Sky visual identity trademark registration $5,000, and Dark Sky planning code amendment of $70,000. This allocation includes $70,000 for Dark Sky planning code amendment. This amount is allocated for planning activities, specifically a code amendment, the local planning rules to support council's strategic objectives in relation to protecting the Dark Sky Reserve. Council has and continues to explore external funding opportunities for the code amendment, and these funds have been budgeted as a contingency if the Minister for Planning rejects council's formal request to initiate the code amendment and all other avenues are exhausted. $5,000 for Dark Sky visual identity trademark registration. These funds have been budgeted to trademark the Dark Sky visual identity that is being developed for branding for promotional or marketing purposes, e.g. ecotourism. The planning and branding elements are part of the strategic direction being pursued as part of Dark Sky Strategy and Action Plan, which was adopted by Council in April 2024.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions without notice? Do we have any questions without notice? Excellent.
A while ago when we were talking about the trees at the Manham Caravan Park that were going to be removed, and with a ratio of 1 to 3 trees being replanted in the removal of those trees, and a report was going to come back to us in regards to that. I think we sort of said within 12 months, and we just haven't received that report or update on whether those trees have been replanted. And I'm wondering if something could come back to us about that.
Take on notice.
Any further questions without notice? Right. Okay, item 20 confidential reports. The first one is 20.1. We have a picture. Want to read out there?
Yes, I consider that I have a material conflict of interest pursuant to section 75 of the Government Act 1999. My material conflict of interest is that I am the vice president of Husband Hall Incorporated, and they had an application for grant funding. I will leave the meeting room, including it set aside for the public, ensuring I cannot review or hear any discussion or vote at the meeting, and will stay out of the meeting room while the matter is being discussed and voted.
Thank you.
So I actually put mine down as a general one. So I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
You're in an executive role on the committee.
Yeah,
How are we going to deal with it?
I'm gonna leave. Yeah. So does it matter?
It's
It's material, but that's up for you to decide. And
Well, I can just change the form.
I'd suggest, sorry, it's for your decision
Yeah.
to make. I suggest it was material.
All right, I consider I have a material conflict of interest pursuant to section 75 of the Local Government Act 1999. My material conflict of interest is I am president of Cadell Pistol Club that have applied for a grant. I will leave the meeting room, including any area set aside for the public, ensuring I cannot view or hear the discussion or voting at the meeting, and I will stay out of the room while the matter is being discussed and voted on.
I say walking out the room, would someone like to make us in confidence? Victoria, Mandy, all over in favour. Okay, well, thank you. 21, next meeting to be held at the Manor Council Chambers, Adelaide Road, Manor, 9:30 AM on Tuesday, the 16th of September. And I declare the meeting closed, 11:29 AM. Thank you very much, everyone.